Okay, we're gonna take a quick look at tier sets and then some of the class changes before I jump into alpha and we look at some things. Yeah, Arcane Mage, they're doing the boring season one stuff. This is a step further beyond what they've done for the boring season one stuff, and that it is even more boring and even more, season one A. So first off, we got Arcane Mage. They got each arcane charge increases your crit strike chance by 1% for 2 set, and 4 set is just the crit strike damage of your arcane spells increased by 10%. Kinda boring. Doesn't really do anything. Arcane doesn't really do anything for crit at all. So it harkens back to like probably one of my favorite recent arcane tier sets, which was season 1 of Dragonflight, which had a much stronger amp on your crit strike chance for just arcane blast and explosion per charge. I think it was like 5% or 6%, and then for your foresight was when you like reach 4 arcane charges. I don't know, it just gave like 20% increased crit chance on barrage, so that's pretty fun. You end up having like an overall 50% crit rate on your arcane blast. I like that. But anyway, for fire, it's got just increased damage, and then casting Power Blast or Flame Strike reduces the cooldown of Fire Blast by 0.5 seconds. A little bit crazy. Already gained some extra Fire Blast CDR. First tier set seems kind of good. And then we have Frost Mage. So Flurry and Blizzard deal 8% increased damage, and Fingers of Frost increases Shatter's damage by 10%. This is absolute ass. Maybe in part because only one of the Fingers of Frost generator is bugged on Alpha, this Everlasting Frost, and you literally never get Fingers of Frost, because you just don't cast Frostbolt. And this talent is like this and Ray Frost are the only 2 talents that have any consistency at all with giving you Fingers of Frost. This is where the entirety of your Fingers of Frost comes from. And honestly, you do not get near enough of it. This talent was giving you 3 Fingers of Frost every time you cast Glacial Spike. They recently fixed that, and just right now, this alpha update to do 1, which is unfortunate because the 3 was, again, the only way you were really getting Fingers of Frost stacks. And also because there's a much bigger bug they definitely should be fixing, which is that Blizzard isn't generating freezing, and you can't really test AOE when Blizzard, again, isn't generating freezing. So would have preferred that, fix that, but that's okay. But yeah, I think this is hilariously bad. I mean, it is just numerically insanely terrible. So we'll see how that comes out when Sims happen, but I think this is just, oh my god. I cannot understand. These are at least persistent effects, and this is so conditional. You barely cast Flurry. Blizzard does not do that much damage. Fingers of Frost barely happens. It's okay. Anyway, on to the actual class changes. So it's kind of wild to see Spellslinger getting double the notes that Frostfire did, but given that they're nerfs, maybe that's good. So for Frostfire, they just removed this increased Ignite crit strike damage, which was out of place, and gave it 2% increased haste. Why though? I would say this feels like placeholder, but they definitely left talents like this in for a while. So I don't know. It feels like this could use something a little stronger than just 2% haste. And they redesigned Flash Freeze Burn. No longer reduces the cooldown of Combustion or Rate Frost. Now grants Frostfire empowerment from casting Combustion or gaining 5 icicles. So this is obviously way stronger for Frost, because you get 5 icicles a lot more often than you get cast Combustion. And also the insane thing is that Frostfire empowerment works with Glacial Spike. Unfortunately, we have to send my Glacial Spike first to be able to show you that. And so this means that every Glacial Spike you have as Frostfire is instant cast, does 100% increased damage, and cleaves for full value. Well, it does 60% increased damage and cleaves for 100% value. That's kind of wild. That also feels really freaking good. So kind of a W change. And then they wanted to nerf Spellslinger because Spellslinger was OP and make it so that your spells are actually doing more damage. So they nerfed Splinter damage by 50%, very valid. They reduced the splinters from Arcane Orb alone, I guess, unless they just didn't say anything about Frost. God damn it, I didn't see the thing, but let's see. Where is... They moved it. Yeah, so Frozen Orb still generates 4, which is fair. It has a shorter cooldown. We're going to need to cast Glacial Spike again. I'll come back this time before it happens. And then they nerfed the chance to apply for 1 second freezing. That's good. Obviously, people are going to be upset with this CDR reduction. It does feel a bit bad. So here's my Frostfire Empowerment. Boop. You see I hit 5, I get another Frostfire Empowerment, and I have Glacial Spike. So I can just instant cast Glacial Spike. It looks like I'm casting it, but that's because Alpha is just super laggy right now. But you can see the Glacial Spike hit for 7k and it cleaved for actually over 7k somehow. I'm not really sure how that happened. That's not happened before. It's really weird. Rather weird. So big damage. If there's any, I believe it's uncapped. I don't know. Is this capped? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's just uncapped. So could be pretty nice. Anyway, back to Spellslinger. So the nerf to freezing attacks is good. This is good because at least for Frost, it was just way too much Frozen Orb stuff going on that Frostfire couldn't compete with. So honestly, these nerfs might make Frostfire a bit more competitive. The issue with Frostfire is that now, due to this flash freeze burn stuff, and the fact that it has to take Isothermic Core, right? You have to go down to Comet Storm, and literally you have to spend all of your other points going down to over here if you want Hailstones or something, or Glaciate, and then you have no points for Fingers of Frost generation, and you don't have the points for Master Lancer. So this means that you also don't have the points for AOE. You can't take Freezing Winds, you can't take Winter's Whisper without giving up a lot of Glacial Spike generation, which feels pretty bad because Glacial Spike, especially with this flash freeze burn thing, is just way more fun than really anything else in your kit. So yeah, you don't have the points for anything unless you start dropping Deep Shatter, and then you're like, what are you doing? Because nothing in your kit does near as much damage as Shattering, except maybe this in AOE, like a Frostfire Empowerment, Glacial Spike in AOE. But the thing is, your choice is either Comet Storm or it's taking Glacial Spike generation AOE, and you're going to drop the Glacial Spike generation because you have to take Comet Storm. That's what half of your talents are about. Anyway, whatever. So yeah, they just made it so this increases the damage of Shatter by 15%. That's a lot, by the way. And then it also increased the damage of Frostbolt and Blizzard by 15%. So this will again buff Glacial Spike. So I don't really think Spellslinger is that bad right now. It has way more talent flexibility. Doesn't have to take Comp Storm. Comp Storm's kind of trash. And it just has more single target freezing generation at least, and most likely AoE generation because of the Frozen Orb CDR. Flash Freeze Burn does give some freezing, and that just does way more damage to the Shatters and the Blizzards and the Frostbolts. So I don't know, this seems still very imbalanced, and that's partially because Frostfire is still kind of poorly designed. This is kind of cool that they made Meteor grant Pyroclasm. That's nice. Gives you a little bit rotation thing to do. And then for the class tree, they added this Brainstorm somewhere. Here it is, where gaining Hot Streak, Clear Casting, Brain Freeze, increase your ring life by 1% for 8 seconds. Multiple applications may overlap. This is terrible for Frost because we have no Brain Freeze generation at all. We don't cast Frostbolt. But this is definitely good for Fire. They're just chain shotgunning those Hot Streaks and Combustion. That may incentivize them not to play, with Pyroclasm maybe. And then you have Clear Casting, and that's always been an okay enough talent that Arcane's previously wanted to take. I don't know if they will now. They've kind of changed their Clear Casting gen around a lot, right? You're missing one from Evocate now. They reduced the increased amount from Arcane Blast, so I think they might have increased all spells up to that level. That's useless. That's useless Arcane talent for some reason. Okay, I don't know who was asking for this, but sure. This would potentially be off GCD. I didn't test that because there's literally no reason you're ever going to use this over a second blink charge. They nerfed Incantation Swiftness. Sad. They increased Chemical cooldown 25 seconds. This is just to equalize it with Ice Nova. That's nice, at least for Frost Mages, because it means that we don't have to talent into Chemical for its much lower CD, but I'm sure PvPers and anyone that's not Frost Mage is going to hate this. For Arcane, they removed Big Brain, they reduced Eureka to 1 point, so each have an extra talent point. Fire, they want to reduce the baseline power of Ignite. And so they did this, which I guess is just flat damage. Fire Blast just deals flat damage to nearby enemies. Okay. Interesting. And then you have this talent where when Combust expires, all your active Ignites explode, dealing 50% of the remaining damage. So this is very much meant to evoke a sense of like Cataclysm fire, right? With a massive Ignite from Combustion. So yeah, this is pretty cool. Yeah, I'm a fan. It's down here in the Capstone tree fighting against this, where you have, you know, your mastery actually giving you, or your crit actually doing something in Combust. I'm a little sad that, you know, this isn't like something that's put somewhere else, because again, now crit has, oh wait, I thought that was where Burnout was. Where's Burnout? That's over here. I lied. So they didn't change this choice net. That's good. I actually like this choice net. But yeah, they did put it down here. And this can be, you can cancel your combustion to just make it happen instantly. So, you know, bad thing, because you literally never want to cancel your combustion. That's mega feels bad. But it making all your ignites explode is kind of insane. So, yeah, go to talent. This is kind of weird. Why did they make this increase Pyroblast size? They should just make Pyroclasm increase Pyroblast size, right? Doesn't really. That's kind of so weird. I'm a little down for it, just because. But I wish it was incorporated into more things, right? You know, it's thematic that it's Pyro Mastery and it increases, you know, the size of your Pyroblast. But yeah, and this is whatever. Kind of a bad choice node, right? Just pure single target, just AOE, but whatever. Terrible talent, of course. Fired Up, they just made it able to proc outside combustion, which is good, and then also made it more consistent with this combustion thing, making it so that you're much more likely to get fired up at the start of your combustion and then, you know, trail down, so you're not kind of praying for procs throughout it as much. And then they nerfed Ignite Spread, base Ignite Spread, updated Master of Flame. This is right before Burnout, so you're going to be getting that before Burnout anyway. Kindling, they removed the reduced combustion CD for just Frostfire and added it to the tree. So it's good in that Sun Fury can also get it, but bad in the sense that it's not competing with anything. Like, yeah, it's a 2-point talent, just right in the middle of your tree, but it's competing with like Gate 2 nodes. You're never going to not take 1 minute off your Combust CD to take 2 Gate 2 nodes. There's no way that happens unless you literally would rather sit on it for 30 seconds. But sim-wise, I have to say, like, having your Combust CD for 2 points is like, you're always going to do that. So it would have been better if this was paired with some other, with a choice node, right, that made it so your Combust was stronger in some way. So then you actually have a payoff for choosing to go for the 2-minute combustion. Because as is, it's just 2 points you're forced to put in to just always have a 1-minute CD and be a 1-minute class. But being a 1-minute class will feel a lot better, especially with Burnout, if you end up playing that. So, yep. Okay, so now they split the extra Fire Blast charge to 3 up to Fervent Flickering, which I don't even know. Is that up here? Okay, so you should auto get this. And then Flame On is kind of a little bit more of a choice, but not so much. They did change Meteor to no longer do 40% increased damage to enemies closest to it, just to give you deep impact only doing that, I guess. Which is, where's deep impact? That's here. That's kind of weird. First of all, this probably nerfs it for Frost. I mean, the Frost one had a different spell ID, but the Frost one also did this effect as well. So they most likely removed it for Frost. I guess I could actually check that right now. So why don't we do that? But yeah. Anyway, that's fine. They nerfed that. It's whatever, you know, whatever. And then they removed Firefall. Firefall was fun, but yeah, it was pretty imbalanced for when you were able to take it and actually use it. All right, let's see if they nerf Meteor for Frost. They did. They did in fact nerf Meteor. That is not anywhere of a 40% change in damage. It's kind of crazy how little damage Counter Storm does, because all the damage is in its shatter, but it can't really shatter that much because we don't have that much gen. Anyway, doesn't matter. On to Frost, the things they did, they just mega nerfed Rigid Focus, which is probably good. I mean, because you literally need to take Splintering Ray to make it so that your Ray does AoE damage. Now you just don't feel bad for taking it because the Frigid Focus does like no damage. Though maybe there's a world where you just don't take Frigid Focus. Ray Frost does still do quite a lot of damage, right? But yeah, so you did 1.6, and then if I had 30% more, that'd be good. But yeah, so maybe they need to buff its baseline a little bit to make it a little stronger, since they removed 70% of its damage on a single target, essentially. But yeah, that also makes it kind of likely that you could just drop these two nodes and go into something else. So, because haste is good, it's just not like terribly strong. You want all the crit in the world you can get, and once you get into AoE, points get a little bit harder to get, especially once we see what these two not yet implemented talents are. And then they changed Fierce Frost to just cause your Ice Lance to shatter the maximum number of freezing stacks Ice Lance is capable of shattering without consuming freezing stacks. So this is kind of weird and not very smart, because it still requires you to have freezing on a target. So if I say get Fierce Frost, sorry, I have to untalent this, only way for me to get Fierce Frost. If I say get Fingers of Frost and Ice Lance a target without Winter's Chill, it does literally nothing. But if I Ice Lance a target that has a not Winter's Chill, freezing, Alpha's a little buggy, as you can see. So if I do this, nope, I gotta wait for my Glacial switch to the turn. Instant cast. Slightly buggy instant cast. Okay, so if I Ice Lance this guy, it does nothing. It doesn't shatter. Sorry, get on here. It doesn't do anything. So I literally need to Ice Lance someone who already has at least one Winter's Chill, or one freezing. And that's just like a world 9-day, right? Because now I just did an extra, 4 plus 5, 9k damage just for my target having at least one stack of freezing. Which is ridiculous, right? Ridiculous value compared to that this guy apparently shatters for 1,000. That, okay, it might be a little bugged, because these definitely should have, I guess this shatters for lower value. Okay, it might not say it does, but it does appear that it's shattering for lower value, because it should have been higher than this, but that's okay. I'll look into that later. They increased freezing duration 15 seconds. Probably still not long enough. Again, there's just not enough time for target swap and really do anything with it. And then they made Combustish replace Ray of Frost. That's not really Combustion's problem. To them, this seems more intuitive, and it probably is more intuitive. But Combustish has a lot more problems than just, it's replacing Blizzard. Its problem is its necessity for Frostfire that's in the very end of the third gate, and that forces Frostfire to be incredibly restricted talent-wise. And that they made Improved Shatter a 1-point node, but of the two, Deep Shatter needed to be a 1-point node way more, because we're so heavily limited by these 2-point nodes in the third gate. Like, taking these AoE talents is just going to kill you, and you will take these AoE talents. Like, you have to take Winter's Whisper. And it's incredibly likely that Frostfire ends up taking Freezing Winds, and probably Spellslinger as well, because you're Ice Lancing so much, you have so much freezing generation on your primary target, and just none on your off targets. So you're gonna have to take these 2 talent points, but then Frostfire can't give that up. Like it's terrible. Frostfire is just gonna end up doing this down into Comet Storm and taking this into Master Lancer or something. That's like all it has in the third gate, and you have no Glacial Spike talents or Icicle talents. It's bad. They said this. They said many issues with Mastery, Freeze, and Shatter have been fixed. So what they meant was they added all the spells to our Mastery, but then they nerfed it. Okay, and so now Mastery scales the same as Verse, so it's like a 1-to-1 damage coefficient. That makes no fucking sense, because Mastery affects less things than Verse. So it just makes Mastery worse than Verse. That's why Mastery is always at a higher scaling rate than Verse, because Verse is already 1-to-1. So if you make Mastery 1-to-1, when Mastery affects less things, right? It doesn't affect items. It doesn't affect all of your spells even. Then you're just not going to take mastery. So I don't know why they nerfed this to 1. And it needs to go back up to like 1.3 or something at least. And again, it doesn't even affect the Frostfire spells. Hold up. So, okay, here's Norner had me with it. But it affects Frostfire roll. It does not, however, affect Fire Blast or Meteor. Something, yeah. Does not affect Meteor. So I cannot believe they added Spell Slinger things to it. Oh, how does it not affect Frostfire spells? I'm gonna crash out. It's been 2 years, Blizzard. 2 fucking years. Okay? Same problem. Wait a second. Anyway. So yeah, mastery problems have not been fixed. It's a bit ridiculous. So anyway, I will be posting a forum post, and I'll post that in the description. No gameplay here today, I suppose. Not really. I just wanted to highlight some of the stuff. Like people have been talking a bit less about Frostfire, and the instant cast Glacial Spike's pretty cool and whatnot. But there's too many bugs really for me to actually talk about the gameplay. We can do a quick segment here, I guess. But part of the issue is just you don't have all your talent points, and then again, like Blizzard doesn't even generate freezing or anything. So yeah. So wait for my icicles to generate. But ideally, I would use the rest of my gate 3 points to go down to Glaciate for Frostfire, especially. So yeah, we should kind of open with buggy Glacial Spike, or use an Ice Lance, why not? And then we'll go into my Ray of Frost. I'm talented the AOE stuff, so I will Ice Nova if I can. And Comet Storm. Ideally, I would have Blizzarded earlier, of course. And then we'll Ice Lance. And then I'll Ray again because I can't see any of these freezing stacks, and we'll Comet Storm. Ice Lance once, and then Glacial Spike, Ice Lance, but that was bad Ice Lance because there's like no freezing stacks on my enemies. So yeah, it's not ideal. Visibility of the different freezing is kind of bad, and you can't really generate things very well. So like here, I'll get this Comet Storm off, but this guy only has 9 freezing stacks, which is, it needs like 14. It looks like it procced enough Hands of Frost to actually get up to it. And yeah, there's this bug. But yeah, so it's not great, really. Obviously, this visual for freezing is terrible. These Hand of Frost did used to go to your main target, so it kind of looks like they changed that, which is pretty good because again, your primary problem is getting the freezing on your off enemies. But kind of fortunate. So be careful about casting Frostbolt near your Glacial Spike coming back up, because then it'll be in that situation there where my Frostbolt actually consumed the Frostfire empowerment that my Glacial Spike generated, and I really, really, really want to use that in Glacial Spike. So anyway, I like Frostfire. That is it's definitely to me a lot more fun than playing Spellslinger. But it's going to be heavily reliant on Blizzard generation for AOE, and I just don't have access to that right now. And then again, its talents are just terribly set up. Also, regardless of you play Spellslinger or if they move Comet Storm, we're always going to have to take this 2-point node in the 3rd gate to get Winter's Whisper, which is pretty bad because this is required for you to do 5-target AOE with Ice Lance. And we already have this freezing winds thing, so this would definitely be much better if it was like, oh, this is Winter's Whisper, and then this is Freezing Winds, and they could move Glacial Assault into comes from here, and then to make it synchronized like they like to do, you could put Hailstones here and Flash Freeze below it or something, and then boom, look at that. You have the one pointers that you kind of really want. Especially these AOE ones need to not be gated by this 2-point node because Spellslinger does not want the shitty comments from button. And then, Glacial Spike things everyone's going to want to always take. So then this is kind of Ray of Frost empowerment. This is Comet Storm and Flurry empowerment. And then you have your AoE and your Glacial Spike and your Ice Lance, right? It's kind of pretty synergistic. I think that flows really well. But yeah, tons of bugs. And I'll just have that right up in my forum post. I will, if they add like instances back so I can test at level 90, maybe I'll do more of a gameplay video. I figured everyone got enough of that from Preheat, which is why I didn't do my original one. If you do want to see my original video that I made, it's like 30 minutes long of me on Alpha doing like single target and AoE and Spellslinger 2-target. It's on my Patreon, but yeah, feel free to take a look there if you're interested. Anyways, GG's. Have a good rest of your day.